Enter Takuma Sakamoto, a secluded gamer who is transported into the world of his favorite video game, Cross Reverie. He gains the appearance and powers of his own character within the game, naming himself the Demon Lord Diablo, where the Pantherian named Rem and an elf named Shera accidentally fall into an enchantment that bound them to him as his slaves. The trio then settles in an inn inside Faltra City where they meet Celestine, the head of the Mage Association. It turns out that the slave collars around Rem and Shera's necks cannot be removed or destroyed, so Celestine promises to find out how to do so. Meanwhile, suspecting Rem is keeping secrets from him, Diablo forces her to confess in private that the Demon Lord Krebskalm was sealed inside her body ever since she was born. Celestine is the only one who knows, but they have been working on a way to extract and slay Krebskalm without hurting her. Diablo then vows to help her with her problem. Later, when Diablo takes a walk, the disgruntled mage Gallic attacks him with a giant fire-breathing salamander, only to be shocked when Chad Diablo easily slays it. He then declares he is Diablo, the greatest demon lord from another world. Awakening inside the Peace of Mind Inn, Diablo realizes that his experiences from the previous day weren't just a dream. He then puts himself into an awkward situation in bed with the two ladies. Later that day, while walking down the streets, Diablo notes the various races in the world, but he barely sees any humans. He then asks if levels are the main concept of strength in the world. Shera confirms it, but has yet to learn her level, and Rem claims that she's probably a level 40 summoner. To find out, the trio head over to the Adventurers Guild. At the Adventurers Guild, when they try to measure Diablo's level, the power measuring device malfunctions. The guildmaster, Sylvie, is intrigued, so she sends them on a quest to slay a Madara snake in the man-eating woods. Once there, they are ambushed by a squad of elves who reveal that Shera is actually the Princess of Greenwood, and they wish for her to return home. They also have been told that Diablo had enslaved her. However, Shera refuses to return because her brother had been pressuring her to marry him and bear his child. Wait, what? Anyways, the elves attack Diablo, who easily defeats them. Gallic, the one who told the elves where to find them and desires revenge against Diablo, comes out of hiding and berates the elves for their failure. He then retreats after being reprimanded by Rem. Afterwards, Shera tells the elves to return home and tell her sussy brother that she is never ever coming home. The group then sits in Sylvie's office, where she assigns the group a special request that was commissioned specifically for Diablo. Shera then reveals that it's a simple delivery quest, where they have to deliver refreshments to the Bridge of Ulug. Right before Diablo and the others were about to leave, a man known as Emil stops them and confronts Diablo. He thinks Shera and Rem are unwilling slaves, so he duels Diablo and is quickly defeated. Then the girls explain the situation to him, so he leaves. As Diablo and Shera make the delivery, the guards report a massive army of Fallen is approaching. Aware that the guards will not survive without help, Diablo volunteers to defend the bridge. Back in the city, Celestine tells Rem that she fired Gallic for his actions, then states her suspicions that Diablo is actually a member of the Fallen. However, Gallic bursts in and hysterically demands to hear that he wasn't fired. Suddenly, he hits himself with a cursed dagger, causing his body to be possessed, and he transforms into the Fallen Gregor. As Diablo defeats the Fallen left and right, their commander, Edelgard, shows up and challenges him to a duel. Refugees then head into the city believing they'll be safe from the incoming invaders, because of the barrier that Celestine has erected over the city. Meanwhile, Rem and Celestine escape from the inn, and once they reach a dead end, Gregor confronts the two and Rem summons As-Sulao. However, the summon is easily beaten with a single punch. From the sky, Emil lands nearby Rem and Celestine, while a large group of adventurers arrive at the scene to help them. Emil then fights against Gregor, but despite being overpowered by his opponent, he stubbornly fights on, following his creed as a defender of all women. Meanwhile, at the Bridge of Ulug, Diablo's fight against Edelgard continues. Astonished that her special attack had no effect on him, Edelgard is taunted by Diablo, saying that her attack was the first time he was ever damaged since entering this world. Just then, Diablo is notified that Faltra City has been invaded by the Fallen. Realizing the dire situation, Diablo then begins to cast a grand magic spell and warns Edelgard to withdraw or he'll cast it. He ends up casting White Nova, destroying the surroundings and the demon army. Although heavily wounded, Edelgard manages to survive the spell, and wasting no time, Diablo uses the magic spell return so he and Shera teleport back to the city. Unfortunately, Gregor has already defeated the adventurers that surrounded him, and a heavily wounded Emil refuses to concede defeat. Just then, Diablo arrives and casts a wind spell on Gregor, sending him backwards. He then gives Celestine healing powers to treat Emil's wounds and then confronts Gregor. Vengeful for all the people Gregor hurt and killed, Diablo humiliates him with his magic until he begs for mercy. Then he finishes him. Eventually, the death toll of the attack on the city is released and the majority of lives lost were adventurers. 10 days later, after the attack on the city, Diablo rests on his bed and is nearly courted by Shera, who is sequentially stopped by Rem with a dropkick. This causes the two to latch onto Diablo's arms until Sylvie arrives in their room. She informs the group that the Lord of the City was given a non-negotiable ultimatum to hand over Shera within 10 days or else a war would be waged. Hence, the Lord of the City and Sylvie request for him to prevent the war from occurring. Shocked that the Kingdom of Greenwood is going to wage war over her, Shera is informed by Sylvie that it's the truth. She then asks Diablo if he'll accept the quest given by her to prevent the war from happening. Sylvie then explains that Shera's brother has put a huge bounty on Shera's head. Hearing this shocks Diablo so much that he becomes livid and decides to accept the quest. The trio are then led by Sylvie to the Lord's Manor. Arriving at the manor, the group is introduced to the Chester Galford. Although disconcerted, Diablo manages to introduce himself to Galford and details his desire for more information on the quest. Elated that he successfully spoke without hesitation, Galford mentions the report of him being a demon lord from another world. Retorting that question, Diablo speaks in character, which flusters the group. Galford then claims the situation at hand could easily be resolved by Shera surrendering herself to Greenwood, but Diablo refuses to allow that. When Galford asks why Shera abandoned her lavish lifestyle in Greenwood, she answers that her goals and desires would never be achieved there. The Imperial Knight is then introduced to everyone, and once acquainted with them all, Alicia hands Sylvie a bag of money as war reparations. Alicia then has a bonding moment with Shera, claiming she supports Shera's decision. Flustered by Alicia's compliments, Diablo thanks her, but in character demands that she never speaks so frivolously with him. Back in the streets of the city, the group head to a weaponsmith to get a weapon that will make it easy for him to handle weaker opponents. They do so, and Diablo purchases a scythe. The group is then ambushed by bounty hunters who kidnap Shera. However, they're all easily dealt with, and Emil comes to help. That afternoon, Emil explains that he learned about the bounty placed on Shera's head by her brother. He also says that he intends to beat some sense into the bounty hunting group for disrespecting women. Suddenly, the sounds of someone's stomach growling is heard, and surprisingly, isn't Shera's, but Alicia's. So the group head off to get some food while debating on what they want to eat. Please leave some love if you watched this far. In the Peace of Mind cafeteria, Celestine visits Diablo's party to inform them that she's found someone who could remove the collars off Rem and Shera. But Alicia chimes in, noting the importance of their mission involving Greenwood. However, he decides that resolving the matter with the collars won't slow their progress with the Kingdom of Greenwood. Afterwards, the owner of the establishment, Meteos, greets the group and at first believes that Diablo is trying to sell off one of his companions. This earns Meteos an angry reply while Diablo's magical energy starts to exude out of his body. Shera also notices that she can see the magical power as well, shocking Rem and Alicia. Eventually, Meteos reads the letter written by Celestine and agrees to help them. Meteos also notices the magical flow coming from Rem and inquires if she got pregnant from a demon. But Meteos then says that the energy could be also from a fallen. Meanwhile, Diablo cuts in and demands that they learn how to remove the collars from their necks. Not feeling well, Rem decides to wait outside and is joined by Alicia. Back inside the caravan, Diablo learns how to remove the collar through magical flow and physical contact. Astoundingly, he makes incredible progress so easily. That night, it's revealed that Diablo quit just as they were about to finish the ritual. The reason behind this is due to how intricate and potent the magical power behind the collar is. Suddenly, the sound of a flute could be heard, and from outside the room stands a young-looking male elf. The elf turns out to be Shera's older brother, who introduces himself to the group. Furious at the man, Diablo confronts Kira, noting how he put a bounty on Shera's head, and he confirms it. Kira then states that he was informed of a group of bounty hunters failing to capture his sister. Apprehensive with Kira, Diablo openly states he has no intention of handing over Shera to him, but he's just glad to see his sister in good health. Furthermore, he relays the blame for the bounty being placed and the threats of war on his father. Shera doesn't buy what he's saying, and although Kira acts in an apologetic manner, Rem doesn't buy it either. Not wanting to start a scene, Kira leaves, but will return the next day. Later, Rem and Shera talk with one another, and it escalates rather quickly. At the Kingdom of Greenwood, Kira stands on top of a tall tree while playing his flute. When finished, he proclaims that Shera will bear his child. Susibaka.